the silent arrival. The victory bells of the Zephyron Empire rang across 17 star systems, their crystalline tones carrying through quantum transmitters to every corner of their vast domain. In the grand throne room of the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion, Emperor Korthak stood before his assembled war council, his 4 arms raised in triumph. The holographic displays around them showed the burning remnants of the Polari fleet, their last serious rival for control of the Outer Rim territories. "Today marks the dawn of a new age," Korthax declared, his voice resonating through the chamber. The assembled admirals and generals, representing 12 different species under Zephyron rule, bowed their heads in acknowledgement. "No force in this galaxy can challenge our supremacy. The Polari are broken. The Vorthon alliance cowers behind their borders. Even the ancient Meridian Collective dare not oppose us." Admiral Zex, the Empire's most decorated military commander, stepped forward. Her sleek silver form reflected the chamber's lights as she spoke. "Your Majesty, our scouts report complete pacification of all contested sectors. The galaxy finally understands that resistance against the Zephyron Empire is futile." The celebration might have continued for hours, but a sudden alarm pierced through the throne room. Every military officer immediately activated their personal displays, searching for the source of the disturbance. The massive central hologram shifted from images of victory to a real-time scan of their outer defense perimeter. "What is that?" whispered someone from the back of the room. A ship had appeared at the edge of Zephyron space, not emerged from hyperspace, not dropped from quantum fold, but simply appeared, as if reality itself had parted to allow its passage. The vessel was enormous, easily dwarfing the Eternal Dominion, which until this moment had been the largest warship in known space. Its design was unlike anything in their databases, angular and brutal, covered in what appeared to be layers upon layers of armor plating that seemed to absorb their scanner beams. "Identification?" Korthax demanded, his earlier triumph replaced by cold calculation. "Unknown, Your Majesty," Admiral Zex responded, her fingers dancing across her command interface. "The ship matches no known configuration. Energy readings are unusual. Our sensors can barely penetrate its hull." The mysterious vessel moved with purpose, not rushing but maintaining a steady course toward the heart of Zephyron space. Every attempt at communication was met with silence. Scanning beams that should have revealed its interior were simply absorbed or reflected. It was a ghost given form, a shadow with mass. "Deploy the Third Fleet," Korthax ordered. "I want that ship surrounded and answers extracted from whoever commands it." Within minutes, 47 Zephyron warships dropped from hyperspace around the intruder. They formed a perfect sphere, weapons powered but not yet aimed, a show of strength that had caused countless enemies to surrender without firing a shot. The unknown vessel didn't slow, didn't alter course, didn't even acknowledge their presence. Commander Varric, leading the fleet from his battlecruiser Pride of Zephyron, opened all communication channels. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Zephyron Empire territory without authorization. Identify yourself immediately or be considered hostile. Silence, this is your final warning. Respond or we will be forced to take defensive action." The great ship continued forward, and Varric noticed something that chilled him to his core. Along its hull, panels were sliding open, revealing weapons systems that defied conventional design. They weren't energy weapons or missile tubes. They were something else entirely, something that made his instincts scream danger. Then, finally, a response came. Not through their communication systems, but broadcast on an ancient radio frequency that no advanced civilization had used for millennia. The message was simple, delivered in a flat mechanical tone that somehow managed to convey infinite patience and absolute certainty. "Earthship retribution to Zephyron fleet. We are passing through. Do not interfere." The bridge of Varric's ship fell silent. Earth? The name triggered something in the deepest archives of their historical databases. Varric's science officer, a brilliant Quellian named Thrix, suddenly went pale, his normally blue skin fading to almost white. "Commander," Thrix whispered. That's impossible." "Explain," Varric demanded. "Earth is a legend, a cautionary tale from before the Zephyron Empire was even founded. According to the old records, it's a world that was quarantined over 300 years ago by the first Galactic Concordat. The inhabitants, humans they were called, were deemed too dangerous for contact with civilized space." "Too dangerous?" Varric scoffed. "One planet's worth of primitives?" Thrix pulled up ancient files. Data so old it was stored in formats their systems could barely read. Not primitives, Commander. The records are fragmented, but they speak of a species that went from basic spaceflight to theoretical FTL technology in less than a century. They were quarantined not because they were evil, but because they were unpredictable, chaotic. They had wars among themselves that killed millions, then would turn around and sacrifice everything to save strangers. The Concordat feared what they might become if given access to galactic technology. And the quarantine was supposed to be permanent. A sphere of automated defense platforms and gravity wells that would prevent any ship from leaving their solar system. But Commander, Thrix's voice dropped even lower. The Concordat fell over 200 years ago. No one has checked on Earth since then. Varric stared at the massive ship on his display. If the humans had been trapped for 3 centuries, what had they been doing all that time? What had they become? And more importantly, how had they broken free? Your Majesty, Varric transmitted back to the throne ship. I recommend caution. This vessel may represent a civilization we know nothing about. Korthax's reply was swift and predictable. The Zefran Empire does not show caution to trespassers. If they won't respond properly, disable their ship and bring them before me. Varric wanted to protest, but orders were orders. He commanded his weapons officer to target the Earthship's engines with precision strikes. Enough to cripple, not destroy. 47 ships aligned their weapon systems, and on Varric's command, they fired. What happened next would be remembered as the moment the galaxy's understanding of power fundamentally changed. The energy beams and plasma torpedoes racing toward the Earthship suddenly slowed, then stopped, hanging in space like frozen lightning. The Retribution hadn't deployed shields or countermeasures. Space itself around the vessel had simply decided that the attacks would not proceed. Then, with a casual indifference that bordered on insulting, the suspended attacks dissipated into harmless light. A new transmission came from the Earthship, this time on modern frequencies in perfect Zefron standard dialect. That was your one free attempt. There will not be another warning. The voice was different now, not mechanical but clearly human, carrying a weight of exhaustion mixed with iron determination. Varric realized with growing dread that they hadn't been silent earlier out of inability to communicate. They simply hadn't deemed it necessary until now. Commander, his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic. I'm detecting massive energy buildups within the Earth vessel. The readings are... Sir, they're off our scales. Whatever weapons they're powering, our shields won't stop them. Varric made a decision that would either save his fleet or end his career. All ships stand down weapons and pull back to defensive positions. Do not fire unless fired upon. Belay that order. Korthax's voice roared across the command channel. I want that ship disabled now. But Varric's instincts, honed through 100 battles, told him that engaging this enemy would be the last mistake his fleet ever made. Your Majesty, with respect, I am the field commander. I strongly advise. His words were cut short as the Retribution transmitted again, this time on all frequencies to every ship, every station, every inhabited world within 1,000 light years. The message was accompanied by a video feed that showed a human figure standing on what appeared to be the bridge of their vessel. The human was tall, wearing a simple black uniform devoid of decoration except for a small blue and green sphere on the collar. Earth. Varric realized. The human spoke, and universal translators across the galaxy rendered his words into 1,000 different languages. I am Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth Strategic Response Vessel Retribution. 312 years ago, your predecessors imprisoned my people for the crime of defending ourselves. You forgot about us, left us to rot in our single star system while you built your empires and fought your wars. But we did not forget, we did not forgive, and we did not remain idle. The awakening giant Captain Chen's image stood perfectly still as his words echoed across the galaxy. Behind him, the bridge of the Retribution was visible, a stark, utilitarian space filled with humans working at stations that displayed information in ways that hurt to perceive, as if they were viewing dimensions that shouldn't exist. For 3 centuries, Chen continued, humanity has been preparing, not for conquest, not for revenge, but for the day when we would need to remind the galaxy of a simple truth, that caging a wolf does not make it a dog. It only makes it hungrier. Emperor Korthax, watching from his throne room, snarled at the display. Enough of this posturing. All fleets converge on the intruder. I want every ship in the Empire, His orders were interrupted as alerts began flooding in from across Zephyron space. Ships were detecting spatial anomalies, the same signature that had preceded the Retribution's arrival. One by one, Earth vessels began appearing at strategic points throughout the Empire. Not a fleet, not an invasion force, just 17 ships positioned at key locations. Admiral Zek studied the positions with growing alarm. "Your Majesty, they're at our primary shipyards, our communication hubs, our antimatter production facilities." "How did they know exactly where to?" "Because we've been watching," Chen's transmission resumed. "Every quantum communication, every hyperspace jump, every military deployment for the last 50 years. You built your empire on the assumption that you were the apex predators of this galaxy. You were wrong." The Earth ships hung motionless in space, making no aggressive moves, but their mere presence was a statement that rang louder than any weapon's fire. They had penetrated the most defended space in the galaxy without detection, positioned themselves at the Empire's most vital points, and done so with only 17 vessels. Commander Varric, still maintaining his defensive position around the Retribution, received a private transmission. Chen's face appeared on his personal display, and the human's expression was almost sympathetic. "Commander Varric, you showed wisdom when you held your fire. That's why I'm speaking to you directly. Your empire is about to face a choice, and I want someone with sense to understand the full situation." "What do you want?" Varric asked quietly, ensuring his crew couldn't hear the conversation. "What we want is simple, to be left alone. But the universe rarely allows such luxuries." Chen gestured and a star chart appeared. "In approximately 6 hours, a force you've never encountered will enter this galaxy from the void between. They're called the Scoran Devourers. They consume entire civilizations, strip mine whole star systems, and leave nothing but dark, empty space. They've destroyed 17 galaxies that we know of." Varric felt his blood chill. "How could you possibly know this?" "Because we've been preparing for them. 300 years in isolation gave us time to develop technologies your empire couldn't dream of. We detected the Scoran 5 years ago, tracked their approach, and came here not to conquer but to make a stand. The question is whether your empire will stand with us or be swept aside. You expect us to believe this convenient threat?" Chen's expression hardened. "I expect you to use the sensors on your ship in exactly 6 hours and see for yourself. But more than that, I expect you to understand something crucial. Humanity doesn't need your empire. We could have emerged from our quarantine and swept across this galaxy like a plague. Instead, we chose to build, to learn, to prepare for real threats. Your empire's petty conquests mean nothing compared to what's coming." The transmission ended, leaving Varric staring at empty space. He immediately ordered his science officer to scan the void between galaxies, the empty space that separated their Milky Way from its nearest neighbor. For hours they found nothing, and Varric began to wonder if this was all an elaborate deception. Then, at exactly the moment Chen had predicted, their sensors screamed warnings. Ships began emerging from the void. Not hundreds or thousands, but millions. They were grotesque amalgamations of metal and organic matter, each one unique yet sharing a common hunger that was somehow visible even through sensor readings. The Scoran Devourers had arrived. The Zephyron Empire's response was immediate and predictable. Every available fleet was recalled, defensive positions were established, and weapons that had subjugated dozens of species were brought to bear. The first engagement lasted exactly 17 minutes. The Empire's 3rd and 5th fleets, over 200 ships strong, ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not defeated, they were consumed. The Scoran vessels had surrounded them, extended tendrils of impossibly dense matter, and simply absorbed them. Ships, crews, even the energy of their weapons fire. All of it was drawn in and digested. Emperor Corthax watched in horror as his mighty empire's forces were swept aside like dust. His throne room, once filled with confident military leaders, now echoed with panic and desperate calls for reinforcement from sectors under attack. Then the Earthships moved. The 17 vessels that had appeared throughout Zephyron space activated in perfect synchronization. Space around them began to warp, not in the way of normal FTL travel, but as if reality itself was being rewritten. Commander Varric, still maintaining his position near the Retribution, watched in awe as the massive vessel's true capabilities were revealed. Panels along the Earthship's hull opened fully now, revealing weapons that defied understanding. They didn't fire projectiles or energy beams, they fired concepts. One weapon released what could only be described as concentrated entropy, aging a squadron of Scoran vessels 10 billion years in seconds, watching them crumble to cosmic dust. Another weapon inverted the strong nuclear force in its targets, causing them to simply cease on a subatomic level. But it was the Retribution's main weapon that truly demonstrated how far humanity had advanced. The entire ship reconfigured itself, panels shifting and energy flowing in patterns that hurt to perceive. Then it fired, not at the Scoran, but at space itself. A wave of pure causality rippled outward, rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in a sphere expanding at the speed of light. Within this sphere, the Scoran's organic technology simply couldn't function. Their biological components found themselves operating under physical laws that didn't support their existence. The 17 Earth ships spread throughout the galaxy coordinated their assault with precision that no military force had ever achieved. They didn't just fight the Scoran. They dismantled them on a conceptual level, turning the invaders' own nature against them. Within 3 hours, the unstoppable devouring force that had consumed 17 galaxies was in full retreat. As the last of the Scoran vessels fled back to the void, Captain Chen appeared once more on all communication channels. This time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood other humans, each one wearing the same simple uniform, each one carrying the same weight of responsibility. "The Scoran will return," Chen said simply. "They always do. They'll adapt, evolve, and come back stronger. Humanity will be ready for them, as we have been preparing for 3 centuries. The question for this galaxy is whether you'll stand with us or continue your petty squabbles, while real threats gather in the dark." Emperor Korthax, his pride warring with the pragmatic need for survival, finally spoke. "What are your terms?" "No terms. No alliance. No subjugation. We want only what we've always wanted, to be left alone to grow and prepare. But know this. Earth stands watch at the edge of the void. When the Scoran or others like them come, we will be there. Not for you, not for your empire, but because it's what we do. It's what we've always done. We stand guard in the dark so others can live in the light." The transmission ended, and the 17 Earthships began to withdraw, moving back toward the galactic edge where they would maintain their vigil, all except the Retribution, which remained in place facing Commander Varick's fleet. A private message appeared on Varick's display. "You understood before the others, Commander. That wisdom will be needed in the times ahead. Humanity remembers its friends as long as it remembers its enemies. Choose wisely." Then the massive ship turned, space bending around it in ways that shouldn't be possible, and vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. The only evidence of its presence was the debris field of Scoran vessels and the fundamental shift in the galaxy's understanding of power. In the following days, as the Zefron Empire and every other major civilization processed what had occurred, one truth became crystal clear. Humanity had returned not as conquerors but as guardians, not as subjects but as powers beyond their comprehension. They had turned 3 centuries of imprisonment into an opportunity to evolve beyond anything the galaxy had imagined possible. The ancient quarantine had failed not because humanity had broken free, but because they had grown beyond the need for freedom. They had become something else entirely, a civilization that had faced its own darkness, survived its own chaos, and emerged with the power to reshape reality itself. And now they stood watch at the edge of the galaxy, forever changed, forever vigilant, forever human. The galaxy had learned to fear not humanity's weapons or ships, but something far more terrifying: their willingness to stand alone against the dark, asking nothing in return, owing nothing to anyone. The Age of Empires was ending. The Age of Earth had begun,